Hello, I am Leave Nelson B, musician for Lonely Ghost Records, and this is Tellin with Ellen. Here, we will go over recent Lonely Ghost releases, as well as those from affiliated artists, in a quest to get liner notes that you cannot get in a digital era. I hope you enjoy. All right. Well, introduce yourself in this new mask we got going on here.
Yeah, all right. I am Superdestroyer. I make a lot of weird kind of I guess punk adjacent music. I don't know. I've called it punk genre. I've called it fifth wave right now. Kaleidoscopic punk. It's really not it's probably closest to post genre, not a lot of genres. And I also co-own Lonely Ghost Records and do a bunch of stuff for that. And this mask here is a bunch of cassette tape like ribbon or tape from the cassette. Yeah, tucked underneath a hat.
That
So
is some magnetic ass tape.
yeah, yeah, I'm probably gonna. This is probably bad for me or something.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
find
yeah.
out.
You're mad. Yeah, this is making me angry because if I saw that much ribbon anywhere, something was very, very wrong with something that I really, really like.
Well, so like a lot of these broken tapes I got in mail, they're already broken, and I was like, fuck. So I ripped the ribbon out and was like, damn, that might look cool in a mask. And of somebody while I was being petty, somebody used to, like long time ago, like years ago, I crushed their tape, like fucked me over, and I was like, fuck them, and I like broke their tape in half. And I'd like kept the ribbon just because like I don't really like to waste stuff. So I was like, whatever, maybe I can do something cool with it. And then got added to this and into a mask. So
So yeah, like yeah, losing a tape back in the day. Well, I mean, like because like we're in our 30s now, but yeah, like especially when you caught something that didn't play on a radio that often or play on MTV that often, you're able to tape it. Like
yeah.
that was like I remember that's how I got oh, what the hell was it? It was like a Jay-Z song that I did not have like access to until streaming services came on. And oh, what was it? The Game Made Me, I think, by Jay-Z. And I had that on cassette tape, and somebody just like pulled out the ribbon on me. Yeah, but yeah, that
Well,
was
because
that was
tapes also used
traumatic.
to get eaten up and stuff. Yeah. Like the video cassette, we used to tape like half the movies in my house were just like bootlegged off of fucking like cable, you know. But we they didn't my family didn't do a lot of mixtapes, but we did have cassette tapes.
Oh, we always had
Some of them got
mixtapes.
played so much that they just like quit working, you know.
Yeah, especially in our neighborhood, like a lot of kids' parents were like engineers and shit, so like they got like all the CDs that they needed and shit or wanted, and we just borrow them and tape it up, like dub it on
Oh
tape.
yeah, yeah. I know people's albums. We always trade back and forth in school. Remember that when you'd bring like CDs to school with your
Yeah,
friends and you'd all like swap albums and shit so you could burn them. That was cool. That was back in the day though.
yeah, but even previous to that, like you borrow shit to tape it up, like just you get like a pack of tapes for cheap back in the day. So excuse me, but yeah, you can get a pack of tapes for cheap, especially like some of the higher capacity tapes, like a 90-minute tapes from Maxwell. Man, you can fit a whole lot of shit on
Yeah, the
there.
ones.
Yeah, the 90-minute
The thing
hi-fi
is
Maxwell
like
tapes.
back then there was that cool idea like you find like super rare media, you know, that was kind of obscure because it was like randomly on a tape or something nobody expected, or somebody had like a blank copy of something that was like alternative version of a song and shit. And like, that was always really cool back in the day. I feel like that's kind of as anymore. Though I suppose within like DIY, probably like if somebody's downloading demos and shit, that would be equivalent at this point. But I don't know. I feel like I used to love that. Like I would have like different versions of songs than other people, and you know, you'd like listen to that and it would just like you compare them and shit. I don't know if you did that, but like Swing Life Away by Rise Against, the alternative version of that song is like the version I actually, and I didn't even hear the official version until I was in my 20s, I think. So I always just had the wrong version.
I mean, there is no wrong version. But like fucking yeah, because like tapes have to be equal, right? And so like sometimes they'll put some of that they'll let like earlier versions of songs go on tape if it filled out the length of the tape. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, so I mean, you obviously know that struggle now, making tapes. How both sides have to
I
have
fucking
like
hate dubbing tape.
equal, yeah, like having to switch around, like yeah, they actually like switched around, like sequencing and stuff like that, like like the track list was different on tape than it was on CD. And the same for vinyl because you only
It's
had so
kind of
much
like
room.
something that, yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, like you know, I always wondered like how did they get the tapes even, but probably yeah, they just switch them around versus vinyl or whatever. It's very weird how physical media used to be so limiting compared to now. But I know like we always want to put the songs in order when we make tapes. So like I have to buy sometimes a tape that's like 13 minutes, but the album's only 11. But to split it in half for side A and side B and make it fit, like one side has to be way longer than the other, and then you're stuck with like blank space, and which is kind of where like some of that stuff I feel like part of why it originated. That, and remember back on CDs how you used to be able to like skip into like the negative direction and then you could hear the
Oh
bonus
yeah,
track and shit.
yeah.
Yeah, like that was always cool too. I liked that shit. I guess now, honestly, we should start like hiding bonus tracks at the end of songs, like make a song like 10 minutes long and then at the end it's there. Like that was the other thing I remember them doing back in the day. And that's the only one that I feel like still could work, you know?
Yeah, man, I have done the Pete Rock thing where like he puts like a different break at the end of the record. I have done that before.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. I don't know. I've been thinking about ways to like kind of bring some of those like old fun things that really don't happen anymore in like more digital spaces, like how you could bring that back in a digital medium and kind of make it fun again, you know? Because like I kind of did enjoy the hidden tracks, you know, that was just like not know it was there. But
It was a nice
you
little
know,
treat. It was a nice little.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it used to be annoying as fuck because you'd have to just sit through all that fucking silence to get to the end of the song, or you'd have to try to like fast forward but not too far, like rewind it, but not, and then
You remember Follow the Leader, Corn, that CD? It was like,
I do, but I wasn't super into Corn. I never really liked Corn very much.
but the CD had like 80 something like just empty tracks that are like a second long after like
Really?
yeah. Yeah, it was weird.
No shit. I didn't know that.
And back
Just
in the day, when Nine Inch Nails did the Broken EP, they had a song called Physical, on like a mini disc that you had to open up the jewel case to have access to, I think.
wow. See, like that's kind of cool though. Like I don't know. I kind of want to think of something like that. Maybe we should brainstorm it sometime just to come up with like a fun idea. I feel like it's, I don't know. I miss like, interacting kind of more with music. I kind of like the canvas thing, but that's not really fun. Like, you know, it's not like a secret little song or something. So uh, I suppose we should dive into this actual album, huh?
Yeah, yeah. In your loneliness, that's fucking yeah. This. I feel like at the beginning of the year, like we're starting with like two polar, like I wouldn't say polar opposites, but definitely different directions of of music right off the bat with the first two releases with the Merrier that just came out and and in your loneliness.
Yeah.
and I don't think
Yeah,
it.
they're
I
definitely
don't think it was.
different. I mean, like,
I mean, it
go-
doesn't seem intentional, but like it's definitely like the way Lonely Ghost operates. You know.
I mean, I don't know. So like this year, I've been hyping it up for a while, saying that we're a pop label this year, and that's because like I honestly know like we really are a pop label this year. Like, your loneliness, your holiness is very pop driven in a lot of ways. Like it's really an attempt to make a full blown pop album. Like I'm not trying to per se make like pop songs, but I borrowed a lot more pop influence than prior stuff. Like the Merrier, in my opinion, that's a pop album, just like with guitars. They had Love You LP, in my opinion, is a pop album. Some of the yet to be announced signees we have coming out are definitely making some pop albums. Your project with Mars, Discussing the Sun pop album. I mean, like, honestly, I think at least 6 of the albums I could comfortably say were pop. This one maybe a less than the others. Still has a lot of like the really fucked up, like weird Superdestroyer heaviness and elements in it. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be a uniting thread that people will see in our catalog throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, could you tell us who these unannounced signees are so I don't have to talk about
We gotta make sure we don't talk about them. Yeah.
but but yeah, we've had because obviously I recorded with Jake and Jasmine previous to this episode, uh, and that was a lot of fun, and that record's a lot of fun. This one a little more serious, and I have to like, you know, as far as like press goes for Super Destroyer, right? Like my thing is Super Destroyer is at this point where it's like almost Deftones to me, because like like you can't review Deftones in the way you review other bands, and I would say that's the same for Super Destroyer. Like you can't, there's no like metric for it because it does play in so many areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, you mean just like how it's sonically just kind of like all over the map?
Yeah, you can't really
Yeah.
compare it to like anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of as a label even starting to become that way. I mean, the Merrier you can kind of, but I mean it kind of bounces around a lot. I mean, a song like Vomino, you know, I mean, to me that's like a full blown pop song, like maybe a pop rap song even. And like, that's kind of interesting to just see on an album like that. But yeah, it's definitely hard to pitch it too, because like I never know what to call it. You know what I mean? I never know how to like rope people in with an explanation of like what it is up to hear, just because like it's not really one thing.
Yeah, as an album, it's not one genre of music. Like it really does not. It's not necessarily friendly that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Now, this one I am calling kind of a pop punk album. I was really hoping to set the bar low for myself if anybody wanted to compare. But but no, it really is like a pop album, I think, to me, or a pop punk album kind of to me. Like I did start out kind of messing around with pop punk chords and like kind of thinking about those sorts of tones and some of that in the structure of the songs. And then obviously, I kind of added my own little flair to it as I went, but I definitely have, that's kind of like the box that I would put this in. And that's kind of like the approach to songwriting I tried to take when I did this one. So that was actually really fun because like, honestly, I don't really fuck around with pop punk too much at this point in my life. And this is probably the closest I'm ever going to get to doing something like that.
So before we get into a track by track analysis, like coming off the Stretch Joy, which did pretty well. Like that came out last October, the first of October, if I remember correctly. And like coming off of Such Joy, like what was the chief? What was the difference in like your mission statement coming from Such Joy?
So funny enough, I wrote this album when it comes to croquet was written the day before I wrote MK Jantra. I wrote that song MK Jantra and then What Font Is Your Voice back to back to back. And then I actually was still recording Such Joy after almost every song on this album had been recorded. About towards the middle or end of January of last year, I recorded 7 songs for this album. One of them is actually being used for a different project, and I recorded Summer of '85 very recently, but the rest of them were written. And so like for me, Such Joy was kind of like I mean, it was and it wasn't an emo album. I mean, like I don't know that, like with this album I said, hey, I want to try to make a Superdestroyer pop punk album, and I like actually had like the mission statement of kind of doing that. With Such Joy, I definitely was aiming to make something more cohesive and trying to blend stuff together, but I wouldn't say that it's like fully like me only trying to make emo music, if that makes sense, or like really trying to box myself into those parameters. That one was kind of brought together tighter than previous ones, but this one I would say even more so. And I also just kind of wanted to shift directions a little bit and mess around with different sounds again, which is kind of how I ended up in like a pop punky sort of lighter vibe to a lot of the album instrumentally, was just to kind of that, you know, Such Joy was kind of heavy. So I don't know. I thought it might be fun to make something a little bit lighter because I'd been writing some dark shit.
Yeah, and I don't know. I like Void a lot. You know, that's my Super Destroy jam now. So, but yeah. But yeah, let's start at the beginning with MK right. Jantra. Just a strong song title. You know that pretty much like. Yeah, a strong song title that pretty much like that makes this print the stone real fucking quick. And so yeah, what's the song about, and like why MK Jantra? I mean, it's always been a Superdestroyed tradition to like have song titles like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's going on here?
So like one, I'm like, so funny enough, like this podcast, like one of my favorite podcasts I listen to, is actually just started doing a series on MK Ultra, which is super fucking exciting. Because I love MK Ultra. Like I've read like books about it. I've like watched shit on YouTube about it. I've tried to like learn about that project because it's such a bizarre, just like in really dark fucking time in American history, like the CIA actually doing human experimentation through the like, you know, forced ingestion of psychedelics and things like that. And the way that they were trying to like mind control and manipulate people, and like, you know, somebody like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, kind of came out of MK Ultra as an accidental byproduct. Like they basically broke his psyche when he was like 17 at Harvard, and you know, just fucked him up. And so, you know, for me, I was kind of like thinking about mental health. I was kind of thinking about like psychedelia, just kind of like being in kind of a surrealist state of mind. I had had a lot of really weird shit going on last year. And so I just kind of like started messing around. I like, again, I was kind of messing with like poppier pop punk sounds. And I just decided to mess around on a keyboard. And I knew that like that intro part that I do would carry the whole song. And so like, it kind of came together one of the only times I've ever really made a song like part by part in order, where I kind of did it actually the way it ended up sounding versus like creating something more traditional and then going back. And so I like literally was just messing around on a microKORG after I had looped my synth, and just started messing with sounds. And basically as I went, I created like something to build on. So in that like voice break where it's kind of like that chant sound, I was just messing around on that. I looped it, and then I decided like I want to build the rest of the song on this, and then brought some stuff back in. So it's just like really stream of consciousness. The initial instrumental, which was mostly the way it sounded, I added a few more things, but like maybe took me, I don't know, like 45 minutes or something, an hour to come up with. I was just like really fucking around. And then I kind of just cleaned it up and added some stuff, but it was like a really weird way for me to make a song because it felt like more organic than most. I didn't have to like think about it, if that makes sense.
See, I first heard of MK Ultra through The Men Who Stare at Ghosts. I don't know if you remember that book.
I
Uh,
know of it. Yeah, I've never read it, but I do know what it is.
yeah, where they try to train a bunch of like Marines to just make Ghost's heart explode by just
Yeah,
staring at him or something like that. It was around the same time where I learned about what it called CONTELPRO.
yeah, COINTELPRO.
Yeah,
Yeah,
COINTELPRO. But that was more like a multi-agency project, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
Yeah, so plus a lot of things that kind of can't come out about like COINTELPRO because you know how we know about MK Ultra and COINTELPRO.
I mean, I no, I
I
guess maybe not. I'm trying to
I
think. I'm sure I've heard it, but like,
I believe it's because of the Scientologists.
really,
They broke into government offices. I think it was like Operation Snow White, I think, or something like that, where like they were trying to get information, tax information.
I was gonna
Uh,
say they broke into the IRS. I thought, yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah, but they ended up getting a lot of other classified stuff too, which like we wouldn't know about like Fred Hampton being murdered by the FBI if it wasn't for the Scientologists. I don't think, but yeah.
that's nutty.
But yeah, and plus there's a lot of drugs involved in MK Ultra too. Like
Yeah, a
yeah,
lot.
a lot of LSD and DMT and
Super
cocaine.
concentrated THC. I mean, they would fucking do a lot of really crazy things to people, like really horrible things. I mean, they fucked with people's heads really hard, and it was all in the pursuit of mind control. And it came out of actually Nazi Germany. Like the Nazis were messing around with psychedelics as part of like a biological and chemical warfare program. And like our government was like, hey, they're testing that shit on people. Like, why aren't we doing that? And then we through like Operation Paperclip, we hired all these Nazi scientists who ultimately helped in that MK Ultra endeavor. Originally it was before MK Ultra, there was like the OSS, which is really kind of a less structured sort of had even less oversight probably than the CIA. And it was just like this organization that was like the predecessor, but less official. And they were like doing the same types of shit. It's really crazy actually to learn about it. Like it's crazy to know that that shit was all real. And fucking Prescott Bush and then
Oh,
HW Bush were
yes.
both important to that, you know. So
The Nixon administration in particular was not necessarily, well, was definitely like one of the more evil presidential and presidential cabinets that we had in office, and those like effects still linger to this day you know from basically Spiro Agnew, like being in contact with H.W. Bush all throughout the presidency, and I think he called him Ted or Tad or something like that. Because I think Spiro Agnew's first name was actually Theodore. But but yeah, just a lot of like I believe mescaline popularity came out of MK Ultra. But yeah, like you said, like some from really like American, not so looked upon favorably cultural icons came out of there as well, so
yeah, yeah, it was a nutty. It's just like, and you're right, like Nixon perpetuated that because he was very much like anti-counterculture to the point where he was having the CIA infiltrate these movements. I mean, and like obviously like the FBI killed MLK. The FBI was responsible for Fred Hampton. Like the FBI was involved in trying to, deconstruct a lot of these sort of like progressive social movements that were occurring. J. Edgar Hoover was pretty much a supervillain in his own right as well. And
that
I
was
don't
under
know. Yeah.
Kennedy. like
Yeah. And like, so basically though, like I'm really fascinated with all that stuff, which is kind of like why I had just read a book about the CIA's involvement with Charles Manson and how like they were probably indirectly responsible for the Manson murders because they were the ones providing the Manson's drugs and knew where they were the whole time and were kind of using them as FBI or CIA informants and stuff like that and test subjects possibly. And it was like really fascinating, but yeah, so that's kind of like where that all came from, and I don't know. It just was like a super weird song, and I was kind of on my own little kick.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, and I think I read somewhere they spent like 90 million, almost $100 million, like on drugs. Just
yeah,
yeah, the
like,
$100 million of American money, like that's insane to think about now. But
yeah, especially, yeah, I highly suggest people look into like the history of some of our, you know, um, some of our bureaus of, our different like, what is that even called? Like security departments or I don't, organizations underneath our federal government, basically. CIA, NSA, all that kind of stuff. They have a very fucked up history and they do a lot of really terrible things.
well, yeah, and that's just the shit we know about, So
Yeah, exactly. Like imagine the shit that they're not letting see the light of day.
yeah, shit that should have been declassified by now, but
It
yeah,
never will be. Yeah.
yeah. Fuck, do I know? But but yeah, well, immediately follows that. I believe is the shortest song on the record.
Yeah. What fun is your voice?
Yeah, what font is your voice? Uh, I really like this record, and also like again, really like the title of the record.
Thanks. Yeah. This is probably my favorite song on the album, to be honest with you. It's so short. I like almost chose it as a single, but it's just so short that I was like, I don't know, it might be kind of weird to choose, but I kind of started out as like, again, I was thinking about like punk and like pop punk and like trying to lean into that. And so I started with the guitar on this song and actually more organic drums. And so I actually recorded the song as more of like a traditional song. And then it sped up at the end. I looped the guitar and that was going to be like the weird part I was going to build around for the loop was the guitar because I build on loops for all these. But I looped that guitar and then I like sped up at the end. And so I'd kind of made a traditional punk song and I was like, no, this is like not really that fun to listen to. And so I like grabbed some synths and I just started messing around with it. And eventually somehow ended up with what you heard, which is like half chaos later, with some guitar and some synth in there, and then obviously some drums, some more organic electronic kit, but like played live, at the end. So it was pretty fun to make. It's kind of also reminds me of like some of the old like late 2000s electronic music where they would have like weird little patches of organic music in it. I'm not going to boost the name, but there's a particular electronic duo I loved back before found out one of them was a monster, and I don't listen to them anymore, but they used to do a lot of that and I always liked that sound. And I've always wanted to try to do more of that. So
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the Chaos Later because the Chaos Later has been in your arsenal for quite a while now.
yeah, it's becoming more important on every single album I make too. It's like I use it more and more again. I started out, back in the day when you and I were swapping demos fucking like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I was started out on a Chaos Later and I moved really far away from it. And like over the past few years, I've like come back and really integrated it into the way that I make music. And I think that that's been helpful because like that is how I know how to make music. Like when I taught myself how to start recording and making music, it was like a tool that I learned to utilize. And now that it's kind of back in my arsenal, I feel like I'm having way more fun. So on this album, I'd say it was on every single song. On Such Joy, it was on like half of them. And then on my next album, it's on all of them too. And it has a pretty prevalent role. So Chaos Later is like, it's one of the best things I ever got into for sure.
If I recall correctly, because we did trade a lot of music back and forth, and I believe I bought my XR20, which I don't have anymore, and I regret selling that thing. But yeah, my first drum machine, my Kai XR20, which I think was cool. Like you can program drum fills in them.
Yeah, I have one still.
Yeah, God, man, fucking love that thing. I fucking love that thing. That hurts. That really
Yeah,
hurts.
mine's sitting right here. I just used it the other day, actually. Oh, on Summer of '85, that's an Akai XR20.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's the drum. That's the drums I was using. I love that. I used to love that you could program the fills and shit in. I will be honest, like I still enjoy playing like live drums the most. Programming is like really nice on that, but I'm really rusty. So I'm gonna have to like relearn how to do that because I was thinking that could be a solution to maybe doing some more live stuff, Between that and the Chaos Later, I might be able to kind of like cover enough of my bases to be able to do something cool. So
The thing about the XR20 is if I think I used to set the quantizer like at 32 notes. Uh, yeah, I think
yeah, and see, like
32.
here's the thing. You want to hear my secret about it?
Yeah.
I don't know what the quantizer does. So, I knew it was set to a certain number and it would sound good. What is the official thing that's supposed to do? It doesn't have to do with note swing.
Whatever you when you actuate the actual like when you actuate the sample, whether it
Yeah.
be like a kick or a snare or something, it'll wherever you are in the metronome, it'll go to the nearest like quarter, a 16, 32 beat. Or you can
Gotcha.
just
So it
turn it
keeps it
or
on track. It keeps it
yeah,
on beat.
yeah, it
Yeah.
keeps it on beat, but if you do it on 32, like I tend
Mine's always set to 32 because
I
all I realized was like if I went, because I like to do a lot of stuttery, you know that. Like I fuck around with the beat a lot where it's like doing a lot in between. And once you start turning on like, I guess a quantizer that's going to like move it towards smaller or larger measures of time, it's not the beat you made anymore. It spreads it out evenly, but it also doesn't sound right.
yeah,
Like
and
it,
sometimes I'll have to turn it off if I want to do like snare rolls and stuff like that because it just sounds so like mechanically put. Like you just have to like turn it off sometimes. But
yeah.
but yeah, man, I really miss that thing. I really do.
Yeah. You should
And
buy one. I bet they're not that expensive. I mean, they're fucking what, 12 years old?
I mean, I looked around and they're still like $200 and shit, which is not, I guess, not awful. But I bought the one that I had for like 70, you know.
Mine was 200. I think mine was 200 when I bought it. I bought mine, I mean, at least 10 years ago now. But yeah,
Yeah.
so sorry, we kind of
Oh
got
yeah.
tracked, but yeah.
Oh yeah. You
I did
mentioned
not
seven.
use that on What Fun Is Your Voice, but the drums, half the drums, like the bass kicks on there and a lot of the synths came from the Chaosilator. The lead synth was a micro Korg, which is another instrument I've had like forever, and I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've always wanted as well. A micro Korg.
I got mine off of Craigslist from some kid for like $100 back in 2010.
Wow.
He liked the Wonder Years, and he realized that it was harder to play synth than he thought, so he sold it on Craigslist. So I bought it from him in his driveway, and that was like one of the best purchases I ever made, honestly. So
Wow.
I still use it all the time. It's actually a pretty timeless instrument. It's so badass.
Oh yeah, I believe in preparation for Dune, I believe Hans Zimmer pretty much pretty much like up the like because they did a lot of remote recording for that
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack. Like they had like I don't know how Hans Zimmer did it. Like a simultaneous like conducting and like recording music for a soundtrack. You know, while doing this on a web call. You know what I mean? Like that's genius in and of itself. But yeah, apparently the micro Korg was important for building the skeleton of that soundtrack.
It's timeless. The fucking, the voices and the tones on it are timeless. Like the manipulation provides you a lot of customizability, but like with on kind of more classic sounding synthesizer, like synthy sounding synth, if that makes sense. Like the more like a lot of the newer synths have like voices that maybe take you farther away from like what people associate with like synth. But like the micro Korg is kind of,
Not the
it can
plastic.
reproduce like all of those really classic sounds. You can have a poly or mono voice depending on, how much you want to customize it. You can patch them. I mean, they're really fucking cool. I also have an M50, a Korg M50, which I used it on this album, but I've used it on other stuff too. And that one is that has a lot of really nice synth tones as well. Some like really cool sci-fi tones, which actually I use that in Summer of '85 also. So
Okay, but speaking of Summer '85, like what inspired that song? Because I know exactly how old you are, and
yeah, no, I was not born in 19. I was not alive in the 1980s. So actually, like I wrote a song called Autumn of '84 that never was released, and I used a chord structure on that song that I ended up using on Summer of '85. So it kind of is part of a series of songs, one of which nobody knows exists, but is actually like pretty neat sounding. I love the chord structures. And so I kind of viewed this as like the companion song or like second piece of it, even if, again, nobody's heard the first. So yeah, that was kind of, it started with that guitar tone, which originally, it was like the last song on the album. I actually wrote that song in November of this year, I think, or October. It was October and November. It was really recent. Like the rest of the songs were pretty much like done. And then I just had like one song I hadn't recorded because I wanted to swap a song out. And it was supposed to be acoustic. So I recorded that on, the guitar I use for everything anyway. It's an electric acoustic, but it was going to be an acoustic song. And then I was like messing around with the tones on it and the reverb and shit. And I was like, this sounds kind of like, has like an 80s vibe. I wonder if I tried to like make the guitar sound like more 80s, And so I started there, and then I was going to have like a super simple drum beat, but then I ended up grabbing my XR20, my Akai, and I started playing the drums with it over top of it, and then like just built everything else around it. Ended up coming in with like that bass line, which was the next piece. I knew I added that bass line, which kind of has like a little bit of a groove to it, and then the synths came in last, basically. So it was like a fun song. It was kind of, I was thinking of like this band Wild Nothing, or just like kind of like right around the turn of the 2010s, there was like a lot of indie nostalgia rock that was like really borrowing from like some of the nostalgic sounds of like the 80s. And I kind of wanted to do something like that, but basically like nostalgia rock of the nostalgia rock of the actual nostalgia, so like I wanted to like borrow that sound and create a song around that, because I've always loved that kind of like comfy, it kind of makes you feel like, think of like, have you ever seen the movie Drive? Like the aesthetics of that movie,
Yeah.
they're all like glowy and shit. Like that's what that music always reminded me of aesthetically, is kind of like glowing, kind of like, cool lighting. I could probably mess around with that drum in the background. My drum light actually changes.
Okay. Oh shit, I need to turn that down. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's move on to soul horror. Cause I think we skipped that one.
we did skip that one, but
yeah.
yeah. So sorry, but before we move on, so like Summer of '85, I was kind of doing the nostalgia thing, and then the other thing I was thinking of was Minus the Bear. So like a lot of the lyrics and stuff like that were kind of based on that Highly Refined Pirates album, in the way that they talk about like events, which I already do anyway. I really like that, so I've always enjoyed their songwriting style, and so that was the other piece of it that I was kind of trying to like channel in that song. But it's kind of I don't know, I guess it would be the closest thing to like 2010s indie pop rock or something, but it's different than most stuff I make. So
the 80s were a really big influence, like at that point, because like vaporwave was like a huge thing too, like
yeah,
and
sure.
the fashion was moving in that direction too.
M85, I mean, like, wasn't M85 like right around then too, where that was
Yeah.
like very nostalgic, it was
Because
oh, good.
well, because like I'm not sure. I'm not sure why this happens. Why things immediately go back 30 years. Because that's
Yeah,
what
no,
it's
like the
that.
90s now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's like things immediately like it's when it comes to rock music and the diminutives of rock music. I don't know if it's because people who are listening to music are at that time that were like our age are now like high powered execs now or something like that. But yeah, because I remember like bands like Jet and Franz Ferdinand and
That's
you
true.
know
I didn't even think about that side of it, but
yeah,
like
like
that.
that went
Yeah.
back 30 years, right? Like at
Yeah,
least like
that weird, like, it was like
yeah,
that funkier rock, like, or that like weirder, like, yeah, like throwback rock, like kind of like 70s ish, even sometimes. Yeah. Like sound
and
to it, which I
30
didn't like that side of it as much, to be perfectly honest. I like the more like synthy, fucking like vibey, fucking
but
nostalgia, but
but also remember like that was also 30 years around that same time it was 30 years removed from like the DC emo movement and emo blasted off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you know, The same thing when Blink-182 first got popular was like, like it seems to be like 30 years after the fact, like,
Yeah,
you
you start
know,
to see it's because like I think what it is like basically an entire generation has to grow up and like basically be in control of pop culture, and they basically reach for probably whatever they associated with their own childhood that is seems distant. You would think it has to do with like the generation consuming it, but I've thought about this a lot and I don't think it is. Like, yes, the generation consuming it won't remember that, but the generation finally like creating it are nostalgic for their own childhoods, which is why you're reaching into like the 80s and 90s, which is like people our age are finally able to like be in charge of shit. And the people a little bit older than us are finally able to be in like charge of running shows and writing all this shit. And so I feel like we are getting a lot of like stuff like, again, like that's why you're looking at the 90s right now and you're like, I remember that when I was like 5 years old. And it's like, yeah, because so do they. That's why they're, like that's why they want to bring it back. So I think that that's a big part of it. But I don't know. I
but I
mean,
think
I'm
this
sure
is
there's
only
more to it than
exclusive
that.
to like rock music, though. You know what I mean? Because I think like electronic music tends to move forward more often than not. The only time I think it didn't was like with vaporwave became a thing, But even then, that used like new conventions, but it still was kind of obvious where that inspiration was coming from, you know. And
Yeah.
and I
I think
think
with
rap music
electronic
is the same
music,
way.
I think with electronic music though, it's also partially like electronic music definitely has like eras and like waves within it that you can find and like subgenres and stuff. But as like a medium, I feel like it oscillates across time and space much more, or just like across time, like it borrows retroactively and like does things that like nobody's tried before, like simultaneously often. And so it's like constantly doing that. And then it just like does it and kind of like blobs its way out to one side and then it just kind of moves out and it's kind of like always pushing on the edges, kind of in and out. And I feel like rock music doesn't do that as much because it's much less dynamic, which isn't to say that rock music isn't interesting, but I think like organic rock bands do less innovative things than a lot of electronic musicians because you're manipulating sounds and sometimes like tones or frequency. You know what I mean? Like
Well, yeah,
there's
and
so much
plus,
more manipulation. It's just much more malleable.
oh, that and there's a certain spectacle I think associated with, you know, rap music and electronic music where you're where like processing power
Yeah.
definitely influences the music, and
Yeah.
I think that's not necessarily true with rock music, but it's definitely true with almost every other genre where like, yeah, processing power is definitely like a factor, and maybe the going back thing is maybe like, oh well, Daft Punk couldn't do this in the 90s, but I can do this definitely better, quicker, and actually get where they're going at now. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
Yeah.
know, like, anyway, yeah, we rarely have to deal with electronic songs that only have like maybe like 10 voices max, you
Yeah.
know. And don't get me wrong, just because an electronic song track doesn't have like 40 voices doesn't mean that it's not good. Like Around the World is still one of my favorite Daft Punk songs, and
Great song.
that maybe will have like 8 or 9 voices
I
on
was gonna say that's actually a
it.
very simple song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly simple, but if but
I just
there's
think,
genius behind the
and that's the
song.
other thing about rock versus like electronic too, is like when I'm talking about dynamic, at the same time, like you have the permission to be more repetitive in electronic music and utilize that and integrate it into kind of like the sound and structure and identity of your music in a way that I think like rock music doesn't. Like it does try to be less repetitive in a lot of ways, but I think people gravitate to rock for familiarity. And like you were talking about, like, like dazzling, like people do want to be dazzled. Like think about like when a producer does something with a drop that nobody expects and they all are like, holy fuck, I didn't expect, like nobody looks for that mostly in a rock song outside of maybe like hardcore with like a really heavy breakdown or something. But in like electronic music and like rap, like you're looking for drops, you're looking for like crazy beat changes or time signature changes or like really interesting chops for samples that are just going to like fuck with your brain. And I don't think people expect that out of rock. And so I think like by having that sort of like really promoted in the electronic spaces, people are allowed to try that out a lot more, which is why now when you see that introduced into rock, the rock music sounds really fun because like a lot of modern pop punk is starting to add that into it too. And it's because it makes it interesting again. Like it kind of, I think rock music is becoming more dynamic because it's embracing electronic music and hip hop and other types of genres and trying to bring it back in. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, just look at. I mean, I think the trajectory of Coldplay's the not trajectory, but I would say the trajectory of Coldplay's music has definitely went into that direction heavily. Because
to be honest with you, I haven't heard a Coldplay song in probably 7 years. At least no new Coldplay music. I mean, they have like the two good songs. So
I'm on the camp that says Viva La Vida was like their last good record. After that, I haven't really, and that's been like over 15 years ago, I think, or at least around.
No, not 15. I think it's about 8. Viva La Vida was in the 2010s, I want to say.
No, that was before the 2010s, actually.
Was it really?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it was.
Let me see. I gotta look it up now. I gotta know what year.
I just bought
2008.
Yeah, I just bought a copy of that record.
No shit. Wow. Yeah. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Wow, they have not made a good song in fucking 12 years.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
Yeah, Viva La Vida. Right. Yeah, but yeah, Coldplay definitely went into that direction where and even like bands like Maroon 5 have definitely went hard.
Yeah, they became like an electronic band. I mean, Fall Out Boy.
I haven't heard a Fall Out Boy song since. I can't even tell you last time I heard a Fall Out Boy.
They are basically like just Katy Perry or something like that synthy and stuff. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like it's like they're more really an electronic group. Like they have guitars and shit, but it's very very heavily produced.
It sounds more in line with Patrick Stump like being on a Gym Class Hero song or something like that.
Actually, yes, it's basically what Patrick Stump was trying to do on his solo stuff. Ended up becoming Fall Out Boy again. It's like very much just like pop music, not necessarily bad, just different. It doesn't sound like Fall Out Boy from 2005, but that's okay probably. But
I do remember Finger 11.
Oh God, the worst.
I actually like a couple of Finger 11 songs, but
I did not. Even as a kid, I was like, this is not for me.
But they went into a hard like dancey direction, like their second record.
I mean, because didn't they have that popular song that was a very dancey rock song?
Yeah, I forgot what it was called though.
That bow 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 bow.
Yeah. Yeah, that bass line was killer though.
That's a sick fucking bass line. Honestly, it's a great bass line.
That bass line was pretty cool. That's a groovy bass line, but
it is. I mean, you gotta give them credit. They did write a catchy song. It was well made, but
I don't know who wrote it. Like that
somebody wrote a catchy song. Yeah, they performed it.
It doesn't sound like a Finger 11 song. I'll tell you that right now. But
that's true.
But yeah, like I don't know who wrote that fucking song, but yeah. But yeah, that was such a hard direction though. That was such a hard turn, and I mean, just to go off on a tangent here, I don't think our label's really that label that does that kind of thing, like as a gimmick, which I think
not as a gimmick.
Yeah,
I mean, I think people have been moving those directions, me included, just because we've always wanted to, and like I think as we all get better at making music and just like understanding how we all operate as like artists, I think a lot of people have been able to figure out how to like, the thing about pop music is like everybody writes it off as very simple, but I think like integrating pop music well into anything you do or integrating pop elements is actually incredibly hard, because like good pop music is really hard to make. And, it's so good that it seems obvious, right? Like good pop music is so good, it seems obvious to the point where everybody has it in their head and everybody's like, yeah, duh, anybody could write this. But like, no, like not really. That's kind of the point. Like it's so catchy, and it's so hard to kind of know how to like do that well without just like making something really cheesy or like become almost like a parody of itself, And
the thing is, like pop music changes so drastically.
Yeah.
Like like if you were to tell me like back in like 2005 that Griselda is going to be selling as well as they are, like I will tell you, fuck no, that's impossible. There's no way that these grimy dudes from the from Buffalo are
Yeah.
going to be like have like a fucking billboard on Manhattan and Times Square in Manhattan for like 18 months in a row. That's going to
Well,
cost
think
them
about like
like oh
Tyler Creator. Like, could you imagine Tyler Creator being like a pop star less than fucking, in 2015 and 2005? I mean, like that would have never
yeah,
occurred to me.
and he's a full. I think he's like a full on legend now. Like I think he's like a
Yeah.
full on.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
literally,
So
like icon. Yeah. And the thing is like that turn happened right around 2010, where like we did see a gigantic shift in music. It's just nobody really noticed. Like so much like older music was brought back in as influences and kind of reappropriated in new ways, and like it's really interesting, like honestly. And I think we're seeing it happen again. It's just nobody really notices when it's happening, because I think a lot of people's first inclination is to kind of shit on it and hate it because it sounds weird. Oh, and then you get like these weird subcultures built around it where people are like ecstatically in love with this to the point of like standing it or whatever, because they're like so into this weird shit that everybody fucking hates because nobody understands what it is. And then over time, as more and more people do it, as it becomes normalized, you see it kind of become just like normal to the point where everybody forgot that like it's actually not that old. Like I see people saying like, oh, well, this music hasn't been innovative and whatever. And like I would argue music has been incredibly innovative. Like music is incredibly innovative, and I think you can like see a full turn about every decade. So I don't know.
well
Like think
yeah.
of 2010 to 2015 versus 2015 to 2020, or even better yet, 2017 to 2020 versus 2010 to 2017. Think of how different music sounded. you know like it's a crazy shift over that time, but like people don't really realize how quickly it shifted.
Yeah,
Let me think.
because
you
yeah, we
know
went from yeah, because like 2010, like we went from like Justin Bieber's baby age to like Justin Bieber barely cracking top 10 now.
we
Like
went from like Black Eyed Peas on the tail end of their like gigantic fame.
oh, the end and the beginning. God. Oh.
That was like right before that was like 2008, 2009. And like think about then 2018, how old that sounds, or like how crazy it is that that was only 10 years apart from like, you know, fucking like Playboy Cardi and Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, like, holy fuck. I mean, the path of how it got there, like how pop music got there is like obvious. Like Future is a big, factor in that. The Southern, like rap movement in general, really, especially like around Atlanta, had fucking obviously mutated quite a bit and like changed from like that kind of throwback Southern trap sound to being like really synthy and weird. But, like,
Well,
I mean, it's just
I
kind of
think
really
the more
interesting to think
obvious
about.
example is like there's the career of Gwen Stefani being like a ska punk singer to doing like what you're waiting for and Holla Back Girl, you
That's true.
know, and like and not to mention like like cursing became like normalized when like when the shit was bananas, or like when Fergie was basically just straight up like cursing in her in her lead singles for her records.
Yeah.
Like yeah, they blocked it out, but still like no, like it's you knew what they were saying,
Yeah.
like
It's just, I find it interesting, but like, I guess the point is just like when you look at pop music, and like you're seeing like, again, this year with our label, like a lot of people integrating it. I just think like maybe that's part of it. But also, I don't know. I feel like pop is not as far away from the subgenres that it steals from as it used to be. And like, emo is pop music now. So it kind of also makes sense in that way. Like emo and pop punk are kind of pop music, or being heavily, influencing pop music right now. And like that also probably plays a factor that we're seeing a lot more people within those spheres also want to do the other direction and say like, let me get a little bit more pop in my, emo or my pop punk or whatever.
wait, man, I guess yeah, you do have a point, because like I think for for Disgust in the Sun, particularly like a lot of my inspiration came from like good vibrations.
Dude, I don't care. I fucking love that song. Marky Mark is a piece of shit, but Good Vibrations,
Yeah, like good vibrations and like
masterpiece.
those like 90s dance records, like I Got the Power, like the Chill Rob G
That
like
shit's so timeless though. Like I think
yeah.
that 90s like dance movement was like so fucking, it's still like underrated. Like that music holds up. It's so fucking good. And like there's still stuff to mine from it, you know? I feel like there's a lot of good ideas that haven't been picked up on yet.
Yeah, man, and those drum breaks were fucking insane
Killer.
too.
Killer,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Fucking killer. Yeah,
Oh,
like 90s house, 90s techno, like yeah, that shit was fucking great.
but okay, so slow horror. I think,
Yeah.
and this is a song I've heard. I've heard like for a while. That just never got released.
Well, so
Uh,
actually this was recorded with I actually misspoke. So actually the first song I recorded for this album was Eternal Mountain. Then NK Jantra, then Font, then Slow Horror was actually next. So funny enough, like the first three songs were recorded in that order.
okay.
Yeah. So it's led mostly the synth is actually the K oscillator. So I like played that on my K oscillator, that main like lead synth sound, that do 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 do. That's all just like on a K oscillator. I had to practice until I could figure out exactly where I had to hit it to make it do that. And I looped it. I got the loop perfect, and then I built basically almost the entire song on the K oscillator. Um, the synth at the end, like that ambient sounding synth, is an M50, and the bass that comes in, the like bass, the bass that drops in and out of the song is also a Korg M50. But otherwise, it's a K oscillator. So, and I don't
Yeah,
think it has,
Chaos Slater doing work, man.
and I don't think it has any guitar in it. I like to bury like arpeggios underneath synthesized beats and just like in really couched in beats to kind of add texture to songs. It'll add like a nice graininess to a song and like make it sound a little bit more like organic and earthy without really being like something people notice. But I actually don't think I did that on this song. I think this was all synth.
Yeah, I remember that being definitely more prominent, and I think short stories about Ghost.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, of you like plucking out a chord or arpeggiating a chord or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was nice, and maybe that's why that made me feel like the song was like older than it is. But
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah.
pure chaos later pretty much.
Mm. Now,
And it's grim. I mean, like, I don't,
oh,
you know, it's about, so like, I wrote that song about my partner. We've been together a long time, and it's a love song, but it's kind of like through the lens of, I guess, like time and the way that I kind of, my brain always likes to go to like the saddest fucking possible place, even when I'm thinking about something positive. So like, the first thing I think of when I'm thinking about at that time when I wrote that song, I was thinking about like, wow, I really love this person, and like I want to grow old with you, but oh my God, like we're growing older by the minute. And I'm thinking about age, and I'm thinking about what it will mean to be old someday. And how do I make my peace with that idea that like I'm only aging, like every day of my life I'm getting older, and like I doesn't generally bother me from like a more like I don't mind aging, like I don't care that I'm older, but like the concept of being old is very scary. And so like, I guess this song is kind of my way of saying like that concept was scarier when I didn't have her in my life. And like having her in my life makes that concept maybe somewhat exciting to at least know that like, you know, she's going to be there with me, and we're both going to be like, I guess, just slowly deteriorating over decades until we are dust.
yeah.
So,
I feel like yeah, having a niece that's gonna grow older and become a teenager one day and become an adult one day, like I can't ignore my mortality as
yeah,
easy as
yeah.
easier as I could before, you know. So
And like there's like joy and sadness in that idea of mortality. Like obviously, like, you know, it gives everything meaning, but it also is just like very I don't know, it's just, you know, obviously scary. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, everybody feels that way, I'm sure, but it's just like, yeah, it's just like one of those things you have to kind of just like every once in a while. I don't know if you're like me, but like it'll just stick in my brain and I just think about it and I can't stop thinking about it for a little bit. And that was like when I was writing this album, I was very much in that kind of morbid fucking headspace, which I think is kind of
I was like,
obvious
yeah,
sometimes.
oh, people die, and I'm gonna be one of them one day. Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's that's great.
yeah,
you and I
So
barely have a retirement plan. So yeah, but
I think that's more what it is for me with aging too. Like the death part, I've always been fixated a little bit on death and like fascinated by it. And like always had like that kind of dark, like cloud over my head. I think about it a lot, but I think it's the being alive part that's the scary part at this point to me. Like the uncertainty of what does my life look like when I'm 70 years old? You know, like what the fuck is that going to look like? Like, am I even responsible enough to be responsible for that person in 40 years? Like, I don't know. You know, like, do I have my shit together enough to have taken care of that person? You know, I don't know. And I think that's a big part of it for me too.
we're gonna be drafted into water wars anyway. We're gonna be fighting over glaciers and shit. I
People are
mean,
gonna, yeah, we're gonna be murdered within the first like few months. We're gonna be too old to defend ourselves. They're gonna purge us for sure. So,
yeah,
oh well.
what a wonderful existence that we have in this. Now, up until
Yeah.
this point, every song is less than 2 minutes long, and then we do it with "I hate what you've done with the place."
Yeah. So, um, you know, Summer of '85 is now in between slow horror and I hate what you've
Yes,
done with
yeah,
the
it's
place.
it's a welcome buffer between those two.
Is it? That's
Yeah,
interesting because I'm
yeah,
so used to hearing them together. So like the drum beat from slow horror was the drum beat that was heavily influenced. I tried to like actually continue it into I hate what you've done with the place because I've
we
been like
have a
really
we have we
working on
have we
trying to
have,
make things more cohesive.
we have a new
Hey, what's up?
visitor. They don't have audio yet.
Mars. Oh,
Oh,
they'll be back.
they went away. Okay.
They're probably trying to figure out
I
audio.
mean, Max. But yeah, I definitely appreciate Summer of '85 being between "Hey, what you doing with the place" and so horror.
Is it just because of like how much it changes up, or I'm just curious now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have liked going into it immediately. Hello,
Hello.
Hey, what's
Hi.
up?
you
Sorry.
you you'll be happy to know. You'll be happy to know Superdestroyer. I bought that same outfit yesterday.
Good. It's an incredible outfit, first of all.
What
I
is
also
it? I can't see. I can't tell because of this mask. To be honest with you, I see like
it's just like a tie-dye bleach orange thing. It's a big bug press.
oh, sick.
Uh, yeah.
I have a gray tie dye shirt, but it's not red. It's like light gray and dark gray. I like quite a bit.
I
I
had
love
to
that.
stop myself from buying like all the variations of the outfit. It was really hard.
I would have just. I mean, if I had the money, I probably would have just done it. I like to keep it simple. Like these, I found these at like Sam's Club. They have fleece inside of them. And I was like, yo, okay. So I bought a few of them. I don't care that I just like wear the same thing all the time. Whatever.
Everybody talks about Sam's Club, and I feel like I got the wrong membership. I go for BJ's.
Sam's Club just has like really random clothes that they'll just swap out all the time. And it'll be like decent, like name brand clothes or whatever, but they're like $10. And I'm like, how the fuck? So like I'll just buy them whatever if they fit. Cause like, you know.
So BJ's clothing is like, oh yeah, I'm like middle management dad that wears a beige Nautica sweater, but a beige Nautica coat and some blue jeans with some Nike Air Monarchs. That's basically BJ's.
I see. So like Sam's Club is like I work in a factory or like I'm a truck driver. That's more of like their like fashion choices, which I very much I like that. Like that's kind of right up my lane, really. I kind of dress very casual.
Oh no, no,
That's so relatable because it has like there's a neutrality to it, and that's like all like my clothes.
Yeah.
It just needs to. It's kind of masculine, trucker wear, but it still feels neutral, and that is like all my vibe. So yes,
I kind of like that too, though, because I don't like super masculine shit, and I'm not like into, so like, and also it's like the most comfortable, and like since I turned about 27 years old, my whole rule for clothing is like maximum comfort. Like the closest it feels to wearing pajamas, the better it is. So like everything I buy is just like, does this feel like I could go to sleep in it? And if the answer is yes, that's like how I make my decisions.
You gotta work in scrubs. Scrubs are the most comfortable thing I've ever worn for work.
Like this new job I'm gonna start, you don't have to like dress up for it. I mean, like you can't like show up like looking like, like rough, but like you can like kind of wear whatever you want. So I can like wear stuff like this to work pretty soon, and that's pretty awesome. Like I'll be excited for that. Just being comfortable all the time.
I just have my my Hollow Notes hoodie. my
I've been really into like the fisherman wharf look. So like I've been folding my hats extra high. My family, my aunt was like, "Hey, you think that hat's rolled enough?" And I was like, "I don't know. I might be able to get one more." And she, "You think that looks good?" And I was like, I just choked on this ribbon. I was like, "Yeah, I do." But yeah, it's just I've got a whole aesthetic I'm going for, So
that is one of the more chaotic Superdestroyer masks. Honestly.
I actually think this is the coolest looking one, though. I'm gonna try to build something more formal. This might be the one I stick with. It is getting pretty messy now, though. It's starting to get like caught in my clothes and stuff. Breathing it in a lot. I tried to sing in this, and that was a really bad idea. I was literally every time I would sing, I would breathe in, and then it would just go like all at once in my mouth, and then I'd have to spit it out in between breaths, and like it was a horrible idea.
If you want to change that, I can easily pause this recording. So
no, I'm gonna leave it. I've already gone this far. I mean, we've done like an hour of this. I can do it.
Really, been for an hour already? Damn. Oh yeah, we have. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man.
We've gone on some tangents, Nelson. We're only on song 4 somehow.
God, man.
No, 5 now. We are on song 5.
Yeah, we are on Eternal Mountain now, which is
no, we're still on I Hate What You Done with the Place.
Oh,
we just basically touched on it and then started talking about Sam's Club. So that's like, but yeah, so basically I was trying to replicate the drum beat for that, which is why I was surprised that you didn't like that you liked the buffer in between, because like I was actually trying to make it cohesive, but like much more like rock oriented, obviously. I would say that was like one of the more pop punk songs I made on that album. Well, I don't know, but like 90s.
Well, just at the temperature from the temperature from like Soul Horror, Summer '85, and then I Hate What You Done with the Place is very like Rocky Horror Picture Show-esque, when it goes through the transitions like that, like that's what it made me think of, and like I don't think it could be any other way at this point in the record. If I had to sequence this record myself, I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Well, that makes me feel good, because I've been so like, did I do this in the right track listing, or should I have like mixed these up more? But when I did Summer of '85, I kind of did plan on it being kind of after Slow Horror, just because of it was slower, and I didn't want to do like too much of like up down every other song, because that'd be like weird. I hate when people pace their records like that. So I try to like kind of go high and then kind of dip and then kind of come back out of it, or I don't try to be too chaotic, because that shit gets taxing, especially if it's only 7 songs like this one is. So but yeah, and that was about like, that song is written about some old roommates who just like fucking did not like me, and I didn't really like living with them, and it was like shitty as hell to be there all the time. So I was just felt awkward. I'd walk in there, everybody would like stare at me and just like not talk. And I was like, okay, yeah, talking shit. I know that well. All right, I'm gonna go up to my room, and then I'd just fuck off, So that's basically what that song's about.
But this doesn't have to do with our mutual friend who's no longer with us. Does it?
No.
Not that guy. Okay.
They headbutted me in the street, and then I locked them out one time. They showed up multiple times to my home, which was in a different state, without asking. And then I was basically manipulated into allowing them to live with me until I could find a way to get them to go the fuck home and then leave them there. No, not them though. I've had some unofficial roommates that were pretty interesting, to say the least. I'm probably not going to get into all the things that I was up to on camera, like on a recording. That's probably not smart. Those are stories for not when you're not recording.
I will say from our mutual friend who's no longer among the living, there was a story, and I think I heard the story from you, not from you, but from him, that like you jumped up and punched a guy in the back of the head at a show.
I did do that. I did. The guy fucking punched me in the face really hard for no reason, and I jumped up in the air and just punched him right in his pressure point, and he was out cold on the ground. We had to drop out of the fucking mosh pit. That is true. We did do that. He hit me first. I never start fights at shows, but like, yeah, that did happen.
But really, that guy? Like, are you serious?
Dude, that guy was like fucking 6'5" too. Like, he was so tall. Like, I looked like fucking Mario. I looked like I was going to punch a block. Like, I had to like jump up in the air, like literally with like a form to do it. Like, I was about to like go fly like Superman or something.
Yeah, that was like the first story I've ever heard. Like
that's a fairly innocent one, to be honest with you. As far as the stories go between me and him and the bullshit that he got me into, because it usually was him who got me into it. That one was actually, that's one of the ones that aren't that bad. Most of them are, again, not really camera stories. So
don't worry, I have plenty. I have plenty. So
I know you know at least some of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Don't even get me into TT is the other one. That was wild. That shit got weird. But anyway, but no, it's not about any of those. These are about much more normal people that I lived with who weren't like criminals or, manipulative.
Hardcore addicts.
So, this was more just like other people I live with. It was awkward as fuck. But it felt good to sing up a song about it too, because like I've hated some of like my old roommates back in the day. I've lived with some fucking weird people, especially when I lived up in Michigan. Like, I had some of the worst roommates ever. And I don't know, it was like fun to write a song about something where you can just kind of retroactively express your frustration about living your life so poorly for so long, Yeah.
I think the worst I had in a roommate situation was somebody who liked to eat my food.
I'm so jealous. That's it.
Eat my food and play like in utero era Nirvana real loud in the middle of the night. And you know what? I kind of like that record.
I was gonna say that's kind of rad though. I would be okay with
like I kind of like that. I actually, that's my favorite Nirvana album. But so yeah, like it wasn't really all that terrible. That dude was pretty cool. We actually ended up living in the same like town once we moved off the dorms. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
I lived with a lot of like people I didn't know well a lot of the time, just because like I needed a place to live and they did too. And I've lived with a lot of like actual fucking creepers where like we had to like make threats of like, if you bring this into this home, you will be very sorry that you did this. And like literally like weird shit. So like I have not had that luck. That's what happens when you need like 3 or 4 roommates for most of your life in order to just like afford rent,
Oh, I just got a bad memory. When I was in Korea, we were technically deployed to Korea.
Yeah.
And so our huts were just like one like big room with like 12 bunk beds on each side of the room. And there was only like standing lockers like separating us, just like a short row of like 3 lockers like separating each bed. And this guy, he brought back like a Korean juicy girl back to the room.
I don't know what that means.
Basic juicy girls are I don't know if Mars knows, but juicy girls are basically if you go to a bar in like American Town or something like that, like there's going to be a woman that sits next to you, and you buy her juice. That's the gag. But this juice costs like $80 fucking for her to sit next to you and just bullshit with you, like
I got you. Okay.
or maybe or potentially something worse, but that's how the sexual slave trade works, And
Brutal.
this guy brought this girl back into this room that's just 12 bunk beds, no walls, no sound.
Disgusting.
Yeah, like
disgusting.
Yeah, and I wake up I wake up in the morning. I'm like getting dressed, you know, like I just got back from the shower, just walking, you know, all like I'm all sorts of vulnerable, and I did not know this woman was there, you know. And I'm like, dude, you need to get her the fuck out of here, man. Like this is like this is not cool. This is extremely not cool. You could have got a hotel or something like that. Why?
I was really good at like making situations extremely awkward if people did that type of shit to me without like talking to us about it. Like I was just like that person that could just make it really weird. Not like a dick, just like super uncomfortable because I'd like go make popcorn even though I should be like going up and fucking off somewhere, like sit in the couch with them, start having a conversation, even though I know that they don't even know each other well. It's like, well, you did this to yourself, you know.
But like what ended up happening? Like there was me and Roddy. Me and Roddy were the old people. We're the old people in the group, and this kid was a piece of shit. Like he would he would be talking to his dad on the phone like all sorts of loud and shit, and saying that, oh yeah, this job is way too easy for me. I'm way too smart for this, and you know, just saying this like we heard this rant once a week, like at this point, like you know him talking to his dad. Cause he was like an LRS guy. He had to like refuel jets. He was like a mobile gas pumper for like the time that he was in the Air Force, and like and him to pull that shit and like
It's like there's a lot of weird fucking people out there. That's what I've like learned from like having to live with like people I don't know well very often is like I used to think I was an odd person, and then I like met like other people and I was like, holy fuck, like maybe I'm a normie. Like I don't understand what the fuck people are doing. Like first off, men between the ages of like 19 and 23, like I was super clean and organized. Every guy I knew was fucking disgusting. I did not even want to walk into their homes. And like I couldn't say it because like, you know, I was supposed to be like a man. So I was supposed to be cool with how filthy it was. And I'm just like, yo, dude, this place smells like piss. It's crusty. Like I just want to go home.
Hey bro, how long that pizza box been there, bro? 10 days? Cool, man.
Yeah, like you can fucking like everybody can sweep. Like anybody can sweep. Like it's not even hard to do. You should like some of these people, I would stay at their house and like I would literally like clean their fucking house for them because I couldn't stand it. They'd be like, damn, dude, why'd you clean here? You didn't have to do that. I was like, no, I did. You know, because you're letting me stay. And really, I'm like, no, I did because I won't be here unless this place is like, doesn't smell like shit anymore. Like, holy fuck, take your trash out. Yeah. Like, what is this?
Yeah, come on, I have asthma. Like, I don't know what I'm breathing in this house. Like,
yeah, that too.
And it's just like unfathomably levels of selfish. Like when you talk about males from that age, just ungodly selfish people. Like
crusty as fuck, just crusty, horrible, stinky. Not a fan.
Oh god.
But anyway,
I love the defining word of crusty. I don't know why that's just hitting me in the chest right now.
See, crusty elicits a smell memory for me, an olfactory memory for me, more than anything else. Like
interesting.
When something smells crusty, like I know what that smell. I know it's really bad in my imagination right now. Like,
so yeah. For me, it's like stinky is like here, but then crusty is like worse.
Yeah.
You know, like this is stinky, but like this is crusty. Yeah, and like, crusty is both like the physical embodiment of the stinky. And I feel like that is my own rating system when I'm using these adjectives. When I'm assigning them to things, my girlfriend all the time is like, I'll be like, I start saying crusty. She's like, well, wait a minute. I thought, why not stinky? And I had to explain the whole rating system I have in my head to her. Like
no,
today,
but that's right though. Like, cause when something's just smelly or stinky, like, oh, you got home from football practice, you stink. Yeah, you know, like crusty is like when you take off that shirt you practice football in and leave it on the floor for like 10 days.
3 days. Yeah, it's like hard a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard and you kick it and it stays the same shape and shit. Like,
like crusty has a shame attached to it. You know what I mean? Like anytime something is crusty, there should be shame involved with that. You know? So that's kind of
yeah, if I walk into your room and I see a crusty shirt and I look at you, you should have your head down. Like
yeah, exactly. like if you're not doing your own laundry, you should feel deep shame. And even if you are, you should be confronted with your own, you know, your own shortcomings right there. So
Oh, you better pray to God that I don't say, hey, what's this?
I lived with the dude who slept on a mattress on the floor that kept a bowl over top. Like one day I walked in his room, he was gross. He was a fucking weirdo. So like I didn't know him that well when we moved in together. We were all in a teaching program together, and like he kept the Valentines that the high school girls gave him and like put them on his wall. So like me and the other guy who was in the teaching program would just bully him all the time because we were like, "You're a fucking weirdo, dude. Like this is unhealthy. This is weird." One day we went in there and he's like lounging on his bed, and he just has a bowl on his bed, and like I like lift it up. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's this about?" And I like lift it up, and there's just a dead spider underneath it, and he's just like, "Put it back." So I put the bowl back on his fucking mattress. It's on the floor, and I'm just like, "What the fuck is going on in here?" Like, like what the fuck, dude?
Man,
And that's crusty right there.
That's
that
crusty.
Would be crusty. Yeah.
That's crusty. Oh man, especially like dried milk and that. Oh, yeah.
There's at least dead bugs in there.
Oh god.
And everybody who came in who like would hang out, because like people, our neighbors and shit would come and hang out because we knew like a couple of younger people in the building, and like they were like everybody who came in was like, "What's up with this? What's up with that guy? Like, what's up with this room?" They try to like hang out with him, and he'd like creep them out. Like, it was one of those several times I've had the joy of living with other people. So.
Wow, this is in Michigan. Or,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a weird time. Somebody used to just take their cat litter and just throw it out in the hallway, all their dirty cat litter. Just it would smell. It was fucking gross there.
Hey, points for efficiency, you know.
Yeah. Somebody else would deal with it. Our neighbor used to steal power from the hallway. He didn't pay any electricity. He just had a fucking 2 extension cords plugged out in the hallway, running under his door.
I just got a visual. I just got a visual of somebody like looking at their litter box and like exclaiming like, "Who put this shit in my litter box?" And just throwing it out the hallway.
I mean, part of it almost felt like that. It was like you'd think that somebody did something wrong and they just like didn't want to deal with it, but like it's their fucking litter, so it's just it was gross. And our upstairs neighbors would like blare music at 3 a.m, like so loud the tables would shake in our house. Oh my god, it was that place sucked. I've lived in a lot of bad places, but anyway.
What I'm gathering is that I like simply haven't lived enough because I don't have the variety of story, honestly.
Here's the problem is I've lived a little, like I kind of lived a fringe life a little bit, like Frank Reynolds, like a little bit. Like I was actually on the fringes a little too much, and I hung out with like not like a weird crowd of people. And we all like, I lived in a lot of like very low income housing, especially as an adult, to accommodate. And like, it just led to a lot of adventures because I'm somebody who's like, well, I'm already here. I got to see what's going on. I gotta, if you invite me, I've been to so many fucking weird parties that I had no business being at. Like, whew. Places where I was like, if anybody realizes I don't know anybody here, I might get stabbed. Like, this is not good. People are like passing around drugs, like hard drugs, and I'm like sitting there in the corner, like, "Hey, I'm just gonna eat some chips out in the kitchen, trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of here."
Plus, like when you have like a bunch of dudes together, and like especially relatively young dudes, like things get real disgusting real quick, and like.
That's true.
I remember when I had my first woman roommate, and like. That completely changed the way I like lived.
Man. I've lived with some girls that were pretty gross too, so I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure they exist, but
I will say it was more common for teenage boys to be nasty when I was younger than girls. But
like it's a race to the bottom, like sometimes,
Except for me, I was like very clean. I always have been clean. Like I fucking hate filth and I hate disorganization. So I was like, nah, dude,
No, my thing's a floor. I can't have a dirty floor. Like that's like a thing. I got like free ways to mop a floor in this house now. So,
but we should probably move on to this next song. We're getting on tangents.
Okay, right. Eternal Mountain with Pink Navel.
Yeah, so this song was the very first instrumental I made for this album. This is what made me want to try to mess around and make a pop punk album. It was really fun to make. Honestly, like I started out with just that riff. Actually, Lonnie from the Acid Flashback was like, yo, do you want to like send me some guitar loops? And I was like, yeah, totally. And then I made a loop and I was like, I recorded that on the Chaoslator, and then I started like making the rest of that song in the Chaoslator. Was like, yo, dude, I'm not sending you this loop because like I'm using it now. Sorry. Like, but so I made that song, and it ended up being really neat, but it was like the very first song I recorded that was supposed to be on this album. And it was like the last song I finished because I added Pink Navel in December. I realized like it didn't feel done with my own vocals the way I'd done it, or like it just didn't feel quite like a complete song. And I really like Pink Navel. And so I hit them up and was like, hey, do you mind if, are you available to do a verse? And they were like, yeah. And they did it in like 2 hours and sent it back to me. So it just like went really quick and it worked out really well. And then I went back and kind of added my own vocals in around them to kind of like at least have my presence there, but also to just kind of like cap it off and make it kind of flow, So
I don't think Mars has ever asked me to do something and I've had it done in 2 hours.
oh yeah, like
it's always been like a day really or something.
Fast. Dev is actually really easy to work with in general. Russ, who records Eichler's, and I've also worked together on something, and like he also is like somebody who just has like a very fast turnaround. So like both of them are awesome to work with, just because like it's like what made me think of Pink Navel, because we'd worked on something else that might come out this year too, but like it was just like so easy to work with them. And so like people like that who are just like turn it over real fast. It's like when you're in a pinch and you're like trying to figure out what you still need. They have good musical instincts, and they're just easy to work with, put out cool music. So I really like what they did.
It turned out really good. I think so.
Yeah, it's just like it turned out really well, and it sounds complete with their vocals on it. I feel like it really does sound like a full song, which was kind of my goal, because that's only 1 minute and 37 seconds. So it's like, if you're not doing it the right way, it sounds like just an unfinished song, because it's 1 minute and 37 seconds, So like having Dev on there kind of helped make it sound like it had a flow from beginning to end.
And I don't know, ever since home movies, I actually do enjoy the shorter Superdestroyer songs.
Yeah, I like it. It's fun. It's more fun because I think it lets me be more creative. Obviously, like, I used to make really long songs. Now, a lot of people probably don't know that because they didn't hear the Superdestroyer like demo-y days like I used to when I was releasing my initial like EPs of like just like not totally finished sounding songs and stuff. But the shorter songs are more fun to make. I just feel like you have a lot more ability to kind of like pivot and just like do whatever you want if you're not boxing yourself into trying to like stick to a very well-known song structure. But also like with that song, that was another one where the guitar was looped in a Chaoslator and the whole song was made on the Chaoslator. That entire song is Chaoslator, the synths, everything. So it was kind of like came together quick because of that.
Okay, and all right, and are we going to talk about the bonus track now, because it is like the version 2 of this record?
Yeah, so that was the original one with vocals, to be honest, which is like
so version 2 is actually the first version.
Yeah, it was the version I decided should be version 2.
Okay.
If it were a ranking system, Dev's is number 1, and then that's version 2.
Okay.
Which is similar how I came up with the.
But version 2 is stinky, but the LP version is crusty.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So in this case, if crusty were good, Devs would be crusty, and then version 2 would only be stinky. Exactly.
Yeah, we should definitely be replacing funk with crusty now, like funky with crusty.
Well, I think funky is below stinky. Maybe funky is just like a little off. So like I don't know. There's a whole rating system to flesh out here. I'm a big fan of tiered systems. So
I agree with it. I agree there.
Yeah, for clarity.
Random question. Is best friend one person, or is it a tier of person?
Tier of person. For me, it's a tier.
Okay. What about you, Mars?
What? I'm confused by the question.
Okay, best friend, is that just one person, or is that a tier of people?
Tier.
Okay.
Yeah. Tier. It's a tier. Yeah.
Okay. I
Like
always,
I have a lot of best friends because like I've known so many people for like over a decade that I'm like very close with.
Yeah.
Like once you start talking about like super personal shit back and forth, I feel like at some point I don't know how I rate that anymore. Like I don't know that I can say like this person's closer to me than this person. Like I know, we've kind of been there for each other for so long. It's hard to really start rating. I don't know. It feels fucked up to be like, technically this person's my absolute best friend and this one's just number two. Like I don't know, it feels weird. So
I look at it as like the mafia, like if you're the Godfather, you're the Godfather in this like scenario, and then you have like your underbosses, which would be your best friends. You know what I mean?
So best friends are always beneath you in this system.
I mean, just
best friends to be at least be like level or maybe above me a little bit.
Of importance to you. Yes, yeah. They are. Because you're the number one person in your life. At least I would like to think so.
I don't think sometimes I wonder if I am in my own life. I feel like I might be number 4 or 5. To be honest with you, I'm like feel like a lot of other
definitely
people
in the middle of the top 10. Definitely in the middle.
Like I'm in my top 10 somewhere probably.
So in your own like mafia organization, you're just gonna be like a made man.
I'd be like down on. I'd be like underneath a few people in my own organization. I'd just be like, I'd be made. That'd be about it. Yeah, like I don't know. Which is ironic considering like I do run Lonely Ghost, but like that's on accident. That's nobody would have known. Nobody thought we would do anything like this. I don't think when we started it out. So, but
all right. So the last song is "We Used to Live Here."
Yeah. So this is the oldest song on the album, but it wasn't supposed to be for this album. It actually was recorded on the same album as Summer of '84 that I mentioned, and Analog Nightmares was originally on that album, and I never released it. And so I've slowly been poaching off songs from it that I liked for like 3 years. We Used to Live Here was the opening song on that album. And that album was much more about like living in suburbia and the end of a relationship and just kind of like being very unhappy with life, which is a common theme in my life because I'm often find myself very dissatisfied. So I, made a whole album about that, which I just didn't like the way it turned out and needed. Basically, I paid a lot of money to have it mixed and mastered. And after it was, I just didn't. I thought like the person who mixed and mastered did a great job, but like I didn't do a good job on some of it. And I didn't really like the way that I recorded some of it. And I just wasn't into it enough at the time to like want to re-record the stuff that I didn't like, but there were good songs on there. And so those I kind of revisited, which is how Analog Nightmares and We Used to Live Here, Lincolnshire Poacher from our split last year, 2020, was on that album as well, as was Brown Recluse. So I've just kind of been peeling off songs as I go. There's some of them that I like, some of them that I don't. Some of like the ones on the split, I honestly probably should have messed around with a little bit, but they're already mixed and stuff, and I just felt like why not? But so this one was the last one, and it's about kind of moving out of a place that you shared with another person that you were in a relationship with, somebody that you live together, you kind of have built a life together, and what it feels like to move out of that and kind of process that whole experience and think about like what that means for you when you have such a big moment in your life. Like living with another person is a big moment, like moving out is also a very big moment. And by that point we had been broken up for a long time. It's not really a song about like being sad about breaking up. It's more just about like understanding why you broke up and like understanding kind of what that relationship was to you and maybe the mistakes that you made in it. So a lot of it is just like kind of, I quite literally wrote the song the day I moved a bunch of stuff out of the house. And it was just like thinking about like, we got along, we ended up like being friends afterwards and amicable, but it was just like kind of obvious in retrospect that we never really should have dated, that we were probably just always better like friends. And, it was like one of those things where I was just like thinking about that, kind of thinking about the incongruity between our lives and our like wants and needs out of life and stuff like that. So, yeah.
the last breakup I had actually, where it really didn't end badly. It's just that we wanted different things.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Like, and you both know, like you both know, like, yeah, we shouldn't be together. It's like a weird thing to have happen when you're both like on the same page, like, yeah, we shouldn't be together. But like, when that happens, luckily it's like wasn't because everything was like crazy or anything. It was just like, yeah, we don't even like want to do stuff together. Like we hang out with our friends independently of each other. Like, why the fuck are we dating? So like, yeah, that was kind of like about that experience. And it was also just like kind of processing that idea of like moving your shit out of a house. And that's a weird moment in your life, I guess. So I like to write songs about things that are where I have to process something. Like I write songs to try to process my own like experiences in life, I guess. And so this album was really much about loneliness and about like isolation. And I think like the feeling of moving all of my stuff out was very isolating. I don't know that it was very lonely, but it just makes you realize like this place that used to be like a home to you, you're now like this other foreign object in this home. You no longer belong there. It doesn't look familiar. You don't recognize anything. It's like you were never there. And that's just like a really surreal feeling. It's very bizarre to like walk into a place that like literally was your home and like not even feel comfortable like being there anymore, So
I mean, it's a mourning process, right? Like you mourn a relationship once, and then you have to mourn a home that you know and loved for like so long. But sometimes you just can't live there because memories and shit.
Well, in this case, it was more just like couldn't afford it, and they were gonna continue to live there for a while, and I was like, yeah, I gotta move on, get out of here, that's for sure. So that part was fine, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah,
Just a weird experience.
It is a weird experience.
And I never had it happen before because like I never really lived with a partner before. So like that was the only time I've ever done it. And it was just like a very, the first time is the worst time, but I'm hoping there's no second time like that where like it's only me moving out anyway. Like I hope it's both of us just like moving out together to go somewhere better, but yeah, that was just like, it felt like I should write a song about it, basically. Felt like one of those moments in my life where it's like, yeah, I don't want this in my brain. I should just like write a song about it, and then I won't think about it anymore because I'm tired of hearing the topic,
Well, yeah,
So-
because like, at least for me personally, like once the song is there, and I mean, granted, like when I do music, like every piece of music I've done is a soundtrack for a scene in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And regardless if it has words or not, like like yeah, I had to think about either something was stuck in my mind or something came to me because I had a greater memory come back or something. And like once you put that to like a medium, like it has a home now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to go back to that, it's there, but you really don't have to. Like you created what this means to you in the moment, and that's fine. That is fine, and that's like sometimes all that needs to happen for you to get over it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it requires more work, but like yeah.
Catharsis, like for me, it's a big, like I always describe it as like removing it from my body. Like I create it into something tangible, and then I don't have to hold on to it because it already, like it can exist in the world. I'm not forgetting about this thing or like whatever. I'm able to like kind of think about it, work through it, create something out of it, which is better than like destruction or like, I think an extension of destruction could be like dwelling on negative experiences, and like that can be very destructive. And like I like to like separate that from myself, and then like it exists and it can have its own life away from me, and it doesn't have to be a part of mine. And so like I really like that. And songwriting in general, like we talked about before, but like the instrumental is kind of more like the emotional context and like the emotion part of it. And a lot of times my lyrics are much more describing things, describing events, describing interactions, kind of capturing like something that occurred. And then like the instrumental part is kind of like the emotion that surrounded it for me. And so like I kind of, I try to do that like in my songwriting, and I think it's because like, yeah, a lot of times like the instrumental comes from like processing the emotion, and the lyrics are coming from like trying to figure out what that emotion was caused by. And so like it kind of, which I see Mars nodding their head because I know like Discussing the Sun is all about like grieving and the grieving process and like, you know, working through things via song partially. And like I do the very similar thing as well. And I think that's like way better than like, I don't know, just like holding on to it. It's like holding on to like every failure and bad feeling in your life forever. So
Yeah, the one of the ways that my lovely therapist used to describe it was like talk about certain feelings you have as parts of you. And she says like I would show her music and tell her what it was about, and she would say that it was that part, you know, whatever age it was, whatever trauma was holding on to, that part getting a chance to like speak in or express something in a way they have never been able to. And in that way they process whatever they're going through, and you know they're still a part of you, they still exist, but they don't have this like bottled up need to, you know, destroy stuff or, you know, harm yourself in any way. Like being able to find that release is just fucking amazing. That's my take on it.
I
Yeah, we
agree.
we
No,
did
I
that
really
pretty
like
quickly.
that. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, we did that fairly quickly too. Like it was, I think it was like inside of a month, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know the bulk of the record was like 3 weeks.
yeah.
I write fast too, though. Usually when I do stuff, I do it like in a very short window of time, usually literally within 7 days. I'll have almost everything recorded and then I just go add little touches. But like, I try to, like, when you're in a headspace, I feel like you have to move quick because, like, once you're not there, it's, you know, especially when it's like authentic and like organic, like, once you're not feeling that anymore, you can't really fake it. And if you do, it sounds like you're faking it. Like, the lyrics aren't all genuine and like the, you know, like, yeah, so like I like to like when I'm on a wave, I have to ride it, you know?
That's weird because
Oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
No, I'm just like back. Like stepping away from it just feels like it's breaking that stream of consciousness. Whereas
Exactly.
like you've seen a lot where it is able to just flood out, and it's just like a little perfect moment all bundled up. But if yeah, that stream is broken, it feels so hard to go back to it.
Yeah,
I've
it's
watched
like,
like so many songs just disappear because I like take a day or two away from it.
yeah, I have a lot of songs that are like they start and never go anywhere because like once I take that break, I just am out of that headspace by like the next morning even. And then I just
Yeah.
it's done, you know, it's gone. I just won't make anything out of it.
Yeah, there's been times where like me and Superdestroyer, we try to talk every week, right? And there's been times where like I, in between me hanging up and picking up the phone and calling, already got a record done. already has the record recorded and sent to master, sent to mix.
Yeah, Superdestroyer is probably the only artist that I've ever seen like cheer me on for staying up for 12 straight hours to work on a song. I've never had anyone be like, "That's so good." Like usually somebody's like, "Ooh, Mars," like, but oh no. But Superdestroyer is like, "Yeah, I do that all the time. The song's great." And
Yeah, you should. I mean, like, so like whether it's good for you or not, I just feel like usually when you're able to do it for 12 hours, it's not a grueling process. Like,
yeah,
you don't get done with 12 hours of writing music and you're like, oh my God, I've been sick of this for 6 hours. Like, you wouldn't do it. Like, it's usually because you're like so into it that you
right.
think you've done something for 20 minutes and it's been an hour and 45 minutes and you've been working on the same 10 seconds of the song, but no, it sounds really good. You know, like, so like, I don't know, like, you know, I feel like that's part of it where it's like, I know that for you, it's kind of cathartic and therapeutic too. And it's like, yeah, you should get lost in that because that can be also very like almost like meditative where like you can clear your brain of like all the bad shit and everything else in the world. And you can just focus in on making like a boot noise on a fucking keyboard for 3 hours. And, you know, and you didn't realize like you totally spaced out and you were like thinking, you know, at the same level of like a hamster or something for a while, just purely fixated, no concerns in the world other than that goddamn boop. And I like that can be really good. I feel like for people sometimes, you know?
All right. So album cover. This is probably my favorite album cover of yours.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Oh, hell's yeah.
Lonnie did it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I just happened to see like Lonnie, I saw it somewhere and I was like, hey, I want that one. Like I screenshot off of Instagram or something. I was like, I want this. I'm gonna buy this from you if you're selling it, you know? And they were like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, all right. So I bought that like before the album existed. I only had one song when I bought it. The album didn't even really exist yet. It was just like on a whim of like, I know I'm gonna make another album. So and then I bought the single cover this summer for it, which is like the crazy looking car ride, dizzy car ride. Which they go together really well because obviously the one is of like the freeway, the signs, and it's just like, you know, all like open shutter lights going everywhere. And the other one, it just felt like the perfect companion. So
Yeah, I really like the darkness of it. It definitely like sets off. It definitely matches the mood of some of the tracks.
well, and so like like I see colors with music to a certain degree. Like I do see colors with music, basically, not to a certain degree. Music has like various colors I see. And like these songs are actually very purple, which is why I wanted that album cover, because like this Eternal Mountain is a purple song to me. Like that's the color I associate with it. And so like this album is actually very purple. And like when I hear it, the color purple is like kind of throughout it, different shades of it. And so I was really happy to have like, that's why I wanted the purple album cover, and everything like is purple because it sounds purple to me. And so like each album you'll notice has like a different color, and usually that color somewhat corresponds to like the colors I see within the album. Goon might be the exception because I have a very fun like throwback Beach Boys idea I want to do for that album cover, which would not have anything to do with color palettes, but we'll see.
Yeah, man, and plus purple is like a statement, right? Like there's a lot of bands that have at some point at least like especially like classic rock. There's
That's true.
purple album covers like purple and blue, you know, and I think in modern maybe not so much now. I know that Run and Jules both have a blue and a purple album back to back, you know, and I think they did that very purposely, you know. But yeah, like their Purple Tape and you know Purple Rain and Stone Temple Pilots is purple, and you know like purple it's not an uncommon color scheme for a record.
Yeah, it's one I kind of try to make the colors kind of go on a spectrum too. So like Such Joy was like blue and purpley, like had pink and purple in it, and so this one's like fully purple. I kind of think about that a little bit too. I like the vibrant colors on the, you know, album covers. Home Movies is green and like pinkish peach color, you know, which went into Things Are Made of Things, which has like peach, red, and then blue. And then that one in Such Joy, which is blue and purple. And this one's purple. And then Goon again might fuck everything up, but that's fine. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see where I land on that one. I hate the color red though, like as a like an aesthetic choice usually. It's very like it just like fucks my brain up. Like seeing a lot of red like really does something to my brain. It makes it buzz almost or something. So like I doubt there will be a red Superdestroyer album cover, but we'll see. If it is, it's gonna be fucked up. Like I promise you, it's gonna be like some sort of weird like post grindcore project or something really heavy if I do a red album cover. But I do have an idea in the work for something pink. So
But yeah, like black, blue, and purple are going to be like landmark album like colors, you know.
well, and I feel like they're associated with royalty actually, right? Like purple, blue, and black are all like very royal colors historically, aren't they?
I thought it was like red and gold or something like that.
Red and gold, depending, it depends on the era, but like purple was very much aligned with like kings for a long time. Blue was also, there's a literally it's called royal blue because like for a while that shade of blue was associated with royalty because blue is a very rare dye, as especially in the, you know, back before they,
I think it was the last color that we actually assigned a name to. I think was blue.
yeah, one of them. Isn't that weird? Like literally just nobody knew how to describe like water, the color of water, or the sky. Like fuck.
Well, no, I mean, but
Terrible as a
the sky
society.
was
We
white.
figured out how to kill each other with a bunch of interesting weapons, but we couldn't name the color of the fucking sky.
Well, no, the sky was white at early points in human history. It was white because black and white was made those are the first colors that I've named to differentiate day and night cycle, and then there was green and I believe red and yellow to describe how done food was, how fermented like vegetables and fruits were, you know. And then we never had a blue because the sky was known as white.
Because everybody lived in misery. Nobody had a minute to just look up at the sky and enjoy it. They're like, my life fucking sucks. Like that was a big part of it. They knew brown because they were always looking at the fucking ground, having to work on something.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that is the record.
Yeah, it's definitely the best thing I've released, but I do think the next one is better. Like the next one is like kind of like,
I don't know, did you not listen to Such Joy? I mean, that was pretty damn good.
I hate that fucking album. Like,
you say that about every album though.
I do. I hate this album already, to be honest with you. It's fine. I already don't like it, but I think it's just, I've heard it too much. Working on it. Like that's the problem when I'm sure both of you appreciate like when you hear a song, when you hear your own music enough, you just always are going to be aware of the things you don't like about it. Like, whether it's your voice or the like weird little noise in the guitar when you slid your fingers up or, whatever, like, there's something that's going to fucking bother you and you're just going to think about it for the rest of your life and hate it. So for me, I have some of those moments on this one as well, though less than on Such Joy, which is why I like it more. And then Goon is that'll be the next one. And that one is like, I just think honestly, that one is just like mostly, it's exactly what I intended to make from the beginning, where that's the first time I feel like I was like 100% in control of what I made. Where like I was following like the lead with the direction in mind. And I actually like was able to stick to the plan very closely. This one, I kind of did that, but I allowed myself to deviate a little bit more and have some fun in ways that I felt like, I mean, like I'm happy with it, like don't get me wrong, but it's just like maybe in unexpected ways still, where like Goon, the next one, I feel like I was really in control of that album. And I don't know, like that's a cool feeling. Like it's cool to like have made the thing I actually planned on making instead of like something else. So, I guess there's points in my book for that.
All right. So, where can people find you first? Like
at Superdestroyed on Instagram and Twitter. I also run the @LonelyGhostRex account on Twitter. You'll see me saying something fucking stupid on there every single day if you go on there. People, are welcome to DM me and shit too if you actually want to like ask for advice on music or need help with something. We do a series called Fry DIY. Season 3 will be coming out later this year. Honestly, we're about to start working on it. We're just kind of trying to get the more, the whole business of actually releasing music in order before we just start doing all this other shit. So that's kind of the big reason why we're just like taking our time on that a little bit. And then we have
and it's a lot of music that we're releasing too. So
what was that?
And it's a lot of music.
Yeah, it's a lot of music this year. And so like we have a release for every single month. So it is a lot more work, and we just want to make sure that like we're front loading it so that, things are kind of set a little bit farther ahead so that it's not chaotic and we're able to kind of do things at a timeline that is more sustainable. And then we have lonelyghostrecords.com. You can find information about all of us on there, all our projects, and Instagram at lonelyghostrex. Yeah. I
should say I got my Instagram. I got Instagram again.
Yeah, I saw that. You added me today.
So, yeah.
That's good. The other one's still selling some crypto.
Yeah, they won't give me the account. It keeps on giving you some like BS excuse like, oh, well, what they're posting is not against community guidelines, but that's not the problem. The problem is
it's not you.
It's not me.
They only care. They don't care if you got hacked. Only if the person's posting
they
shit,
don't
but they're not allowed to.
Look, man, like Facebook, Instagram is doing some serious meta stuff right now, so like, they can't listen to me and my complaints and somebody using my notoriety, the little bit that I have, by the way, to give out crypto. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I got a message from you on Instagram." Like, no, you didn't. Like, no, like somebody messaged me yesterday.
$230 billion or some shit like a week ago, and that makes me really happy. I hope Facebook fucking dies.
Because of Apple,
honestly,
right?
it won't. It's too big to fail, but I wish.
Yeah, it's because of Apple, right? It's like blocking like their data mining stuff. Yeah.
Also, though, I would imagine that like Meta, like on paper, for a bunch of old fucking losers who are like, oh well, the bottom line is like, yeah, that looks great because it's like expanding, so they're allowed to continue to make the justification for this company's continuing to grow and swallow things, which makes it more valuable. And you have to always be more valuable to be viable or whatever, because capitalism is a fucking stupid premise with indefinite growth. But like, I would also venture a guess that the metaverse is a gigantic failure. Like, that's going to be a gigantic failure. Nobody's going to switch their lives over to that shit.
It's a corporate sponsored Second Life. That's how I look at it. Like,
yeah, it's like, hey, do you want to go on Amazon and order your groceries, or like go on Kroger and order your groceries and have them delivered to your house by just clicking on what you want on your phone? Or do you want to put on a fucking headset, have the whole experience of going to the grocery store, but not having groceries immediately and then having to wait, but you wasted an extra hour because you had to fake walk through a fucking digital grocery store? Like, I just have the feeling that that's nobody's going to be like, wow, yeah, I really want everything to take longer for the sake of pretending I'm doing the thing that I could just do anyways. Like, it just doesn't, as long as you're wearing like a fucking headset to do it, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way people are doing that. Like, I don't know.
Not in the current state of like VR, because like I can see if the things were like really super high fidelity, like going to a museum and seeing exhibits and shit. I can see that,
Yeah, it's not good enough yet. It's like,
no, it's not good enough.
And the other thing is, like, I think we live in a time where people, despite how radicalized people have become because of social media and the internet, I also think that they're very aware of the fact that they've become radicalized and that they're more miserable because they're on the internet. And I think it's kind of interesting to see that, like, one of the only issues that's like bipartisan is that everybody thinks Facebook needs to be broken up, Amazon needs to be broken up, Apple needs to be broken up, Google should be broken up, social media is bad, they're poisoning our fucking brains. Like, everybody does agree with that, because I think on a base level, we are aware of, like, we aren't in control of ourselves when we're on those things, right? We're being manipulated into engagement, right? Like, everything's about engagement. So we are being manipulated to, like, make us angry on the fly, to make us sad on the fly, to make us want to have some call to action, which is usually some really fucked up, like mental gymnastics to get you to a point where you're going to buy something, right? Like, it's all technically marketing at its most basic values. It's finding a way to sell you shit, but like, they're manipulating you and experimenting on you to figure out what it is they want to sell you and how they're going to sell it to you. And, these companies, for their bottom line, again, hyper-capitalism, Facebook has to constantly grow and needs you to be interacting with it. So what's the easiest way? Is it to make you want to share your life with your friends? No, because some weeks you might be bored. But if they make you angry every fucking day and you feel like you have to defend your way of life every second on the fucking internet, then you're always, you're always online. And like, that's the problem, right? And I think people are kind of hip to it. They just don't know how to like break out of it yet. But I don't think very many people are looking to like dive in farther. Like, I don't think anybody's looking to be like, the Matrix, like, wouldn't that be sick if we really did that? Like, if I could just like fucking wear a headset all day and shit my pants and like never have to interact with other human beings in real life. Like, I think most people probably are on the other side of that now. Like, I'm seeing people be like, on like a Samsung ad on Twitter, people are like, 90% of our problems come from the fact that we all decided not to have flip phones anymore. And it's like, yeah, like, I think more people are going to go back to that, right? Like, I think they're going to try to simplify it versus like diving in, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, we do tend to not learn anything ever from our mistakes. So,
and typical Leave Nelson B fashion, Superdestroyed ends the interview with a conspiracy theory rant.
Not a conspiracy theory. See, that's the thing. This is not conspiracy. This is real fucking life.
No. We went really.
I'm not like Alex Jones. I'm out here just like I watch like.
I mean, it's true. I will say that.
Yeah, like real
last time
shit.
we ended the interview with basically us saying we're probably all gonna die in water wars in the next 20 years.
Well, Nelson, get it right. Wait a minute. That's not what I said, because what I actually said is if we don't all kill ourselves first because the internet poisons us so bad. So let's get it right.
No,
Okay?
we were
I don't know if I'll
talking
live to
about
see
the
the water
climate.
wars, okay?
No, we were talking about the climate and how like we were going to be fighting wars over resources, right? Like,
Yeah.
or am I
Yeah.
referencing another conversation that we had? Because
No, but yeah, you already know I've already resigned myself to be like, well, this motherfucker's burning, so we're fucked. But
as
yeah,
I'm dying of third. Oh yeah, by the way, news 2.0 reached 1,000 listens this
Nice.
past month. Yeah, so it only
There you
took
go. Congrats, buddy.
2 years to the day actually.
No shit, that's kind of sick.
Yeah, it is kind of sick. But Mars, where can people find you?
Whoa,
Yeah.
I don't think they can.
Okay, all right.
Wait.
Probably Holy Kerouac, Holy Kerouac TX on Twitter and just Holy Kerouac on Instagram. I try to be active.
And a record soon, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, March 25th. Coming right up.
Yeah, the oldest record that I have, it's going out in the world. It is getting away from me finally, and I'm pretty excited. It sounds pretty good, honestly.
It sounded really good.
Despite me recording it when I was 18 and having no idea what I was doing, I think it's gonna be really good.